In today's video, we're going to talk about 10 top things to do when starting a small business. Hi guys, if you're new around here, I'm Nikki, the face behind Innocent Teddies. And if you're a subscriber, welcome back and thank you for joining the video. I've been getting loads of questions on my Instagram and people reaching out to me on how I started my small business and whether I had any hints or tips. So I thought it would be a really good topic for making a video on. When starting my small business, I was kind of lost in the dark and kind of making it up as I went along, and I definitely have learned a lot along my journey. I've now been doing my small business for over a year. I am still learning things now. You never stop learning and you never stop growing, and I think that's actually the main thing. Is it's all about developing and how you develop and how you learn along the way. So you don't have to feel like when you're starting a small business that you need to know everything there and then. This is purely just for tips on what you should kind of think about or have in mind when you are starting your small business. And it's just to kind of help people out so that they're not in a similar situation that I was, kind of just figuring it out as they go, and you can kind of hit the ground running and have a bit more direction. Okay, so number one is dedicate specific hours to your small business. So I've made this number one because I find personally this is a really important one. If you're going to take this small business serious, you need to dedicate time in order to put effort towards it. Time is so vital with anything, so you need to kind of utilize it as best as you can. You need to kind of treat it, if it's part-time, you need to kind of treat it as if it is another job. And if you're obviously doing it full-time, then you know the importance of putting in every effort you can. On one aspect, it is very much like you need to take it serious and you need to kind of put the grind and the effort in and have those specific hours. However, on the other side is you need to kind of still have that work-life balance of you have those specific hours so that you don't go overboard and burn out. So this is really important for all sorts of reasons. Mentally, to prevent you from burning out. And if you're like me, doing it part-time alongside a full-time job, you will not only have to juggle it around that full-time job, but also your personal life too. So it's really important, in order to avoid stress and to manage your time well, that you give yourself specific hours to dedicate to your small business. But just to reiterate, it's really important to not let it take over your life. I, for one, am so guilty of this, of having such a bad work to life balance, and I feel like I'm mentally thinking about my small business all the time at the first thing I wake up in the morning. So mentally it is really hard to not let it take over your life, especially when you're so passionate. I feel like it's sometimes not a bad thing. I'm always thinking of content and ideas and things like that, but at the same time, everyone needs to have time to themselves, to relax, to recharge. So by trying to keep to your specific hours, it gives you that time to focus all your efforts onto your small business, but also to mentally stop and not get overwhelmed and still enjoy your free time. Number two, utilize social media. So when starting up your small business, one of the most fundamental parts will be utilizing social media and figuring out which platforms you want to utilize the most. Social media will be probably one of your most powerful tools in order to reach your audience and your targeted customers. To follow on from this, what is also really important to think about is if you are using multiple platforms, then I highly recommend using the same username for each platform. And this is going to be really beneficial for when people find you or are looking for you on these different platforms, and they're going to be able to find you easier if you're using the same username or handles. Again, another really good thing to do quite early on when you're starting your small business, because not only does this give you a chance to explore the different platforms and the kind of different similar content available on that social media platform, but it can help you decide your brand name. For example, if you're a small business crochet owner like myself and you want to call your business something crochet plushies, for example, there is going to be a ton of other usernames or other accounts with those words probably in it. I would recommend jotting down a few initial name ideas and then almost do an audit on social media to see if these names or usernames are already taken. And then this is going to help you when you find a name that isn't taken. It's going to then help you to stand out from the crowd. So you're not just going to blend in with all the other crochet plushies accounts. you're going to have that individual name that's going to highlight to people that you are different. So the best thing I would say is keep your name, your username clear, short, simple, and overall we just want it to be really easy for people to find you when they're trying to look you up. So how I came up with my brand name, a bit of a long story really, but I initially wanted to do like scented teddies. So I had the idea of kind of, you know, those classic turtles to put like lavender pouches in them, and hence where I got innocent teddies. But with all of the regulations in the UK, this wasn't really possible and I just didn't get very far with it. But I still had my passion of crocheting and making these handmade teddies, and obviously because it's spelt wrong with the S, there obviously wasn't any other accounts with that name, so it was pretty easy for me to then take that account and to build it on all the different platforms that I now use. I still kept the name because I'd already kind of established it on multiple different platforms, as well as my like branding and the logo for each of the different platforms. So at that point I just thought I've already kind of established myself as Innocent Teddies, and I didn't think people would really notice or wouldn't really think too much into it, and they probably just thought, oh, she's obviously can't spell innocent. can't spell it right. So yeah, I just stayed with it. Just to reiterate, it's really important to make sure that all your different platform names match up, whether it's TikTok, your website domain, Instagram, Etsy shop, because otherwise it will just get confusing and it will make it harder for people trying to find you or look you up. So you just want to keep that consistent throughout, and then you're going to be really easy to find. Number 3. So going back to social media, number 3 is you want to be creating shorts or reels on social media. These are really useful tools for expanding your audience and reaching more people. So the algorithm of all these platforms are constantly changing, and personally I find it so difficult to keep up with, but I have found as a consistent Instagram user that predominantly my reels bring in more engagement and more views and shares, etc., compared to just posts and pictures. So I would definitely recommend, the way to get your products and page seen by as many people as possible is to produce these short form content such as reels on TikTok or Instagram, or shorts on YouTube. It's definitely just the way we're going right now. We're definitely the generation of, we can't even handle 30-second videos anymore. We have to have almost these really short 5 to 10-second videos that engage us for that long, and then we scroll on to the next one. So these short forms of literally 10 to 15-second long videos is what's gonna capture your audience, engage them, and then also let them find your page. But I personally found at the beginning of my small business, I was just posting pictures and just posts of my creations. But I found when I started to do more reels and short videos, I then started to gain a lot more following and reaching more people. And actually one of the videos I've got over 1 million views on is about 3 or 4 seconds. So it definitely helps kind of making them really short and snappy, but also engaging. So initially my growth, like I said, with just my posts, they weren't really reaching out to many people because they weren't getting that much engagement. So it took me a really long time to even get 100 or 1,000 followers. Once I then started to kind of build on my reels and get the engagement, the comments started flowing, the likes started flowing, and this is when you start getting that more engagement on your posts, the algorithm starts seeing, okay, people are commenting on this, people are liking this, this is obviously interesting content, let's share it to more people. And that's where you start to get your content shared to a larger audience, which also then think, okay, we'll comment on this. And then the more engagement you get, the wider Instagram shares it. So you need to get that really engaging, catchy video from the offstart for it to then be engaged with by your followers, and then it gets pushed to the wider audience. Yeah, with posts, I wasn't really finding that. I do get a few comments now that I've got a bit of a bigger following, but I definitely find reels are a lot more engaging, and you can kind of add into the reels like questions or things that get people talking, and that's a really good way to utilize social media. So I wouldn't write off posts at all. They're still really good for highlighting your creations and It's still really good to do. However, I would still kind of focus and put some effort into your reel content or your short form content, because these are going to be really key to boosting your content to the wider audience. Number 4, you need to think about your branding. This kind of links with what I was saying about having all your usernames synced across all your different platforms. But we also want to get the branding synced as well. So like I was saying, I've got similar like colouring, the same logo, the same username in each of my different platforms, so that they're all succinct and the same and look professional throughout. And this just gives your customers a really good first impression. It makes them feel like the branding is legit and your business is more credible. I just feel like it just makes you look more professional and kind of know what you're doing, even if you don't, just blag it. So websites such as Canva, and I use Bazart, are really good for coming up with your logos or coming up with your posts, or even like YouTube thumbnails, all sorts of things that can be really good for designing your branding of your small business. And they're super easy to use. They're really beginner friendly. They literally give you templates, and then you just have to kind of pick the colors or pick and drag your designs and pictures. Anyone can literally use them. You just need to know how to upload pictures to the app, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So I couldn't recommend them more. And don't get me wrong, like I say, I have literally just been kind of figuring it out as I go along. It did take me a while to build up my brand, establish kind of like the colouring and the brand and kind of vibes I wanted to give out. And like I said, I kind of stuck with my initial username and my classic pink logo, and I use that pink a lot in my branding. Even I would say like branding of your Instagram pictures, like trying to keep the wording on your reels the same, so it's kind of like slick, or the background in your pictures the same, and then people kind of will associate that with your brand or with your page, and when they see it straight away they acknowledge, okay, I've seen that backdrop before, that's Nikki's work. So I've gone through so many different backgrounds where I've moved house, but I try to keep them really similar and distinct so that it kind of stands out when people see them and they associate it with my page. It's taken me a while to kind of build up my brand and kind of make my page look professional. And don't get me wrong, like if you want to do things different and wacky and things like that, they don't have to be uniformed. That could be your brand that you want to give out. So these are just my opinions, these are just my tips, but do not feel like you have to take them all on at all. If you don't want to have a uniform, if you want to do crazy pictures and things like that, or you don't really mind about having different titles or logos, then that's absolutely fine also. Number 5, deciding where and how you will sell your product. So kind of like previously deciding what social media platforms you're going to use, you also need to decide what platforms you're going to use to actually sell your product. And this is really important because there are so many different ways and places you can sell your product. For example, there's Etsy, Shopify, or even in person at market. So for me personally, I mostly use Etsy. And this was just because, literally just because it was easy, and personally it was the most well-known platform that I had heard of. And I just felt it was quite commonly used and already established for other handmade products, so it already had like a lot of organic traffic itself, and like I said, it was super easy to set up. So I do recommend Etsy. Obviously it's quite well known that they do have quite a lot of fees on listings and things like that. I still do think it's a really good thing to set up when you're starting out your own handmade business. But if you're more confident doing a website, then that's good also. I personally would suggest doing Etsy and a website. Kind of use Etsy's organic traffic to kind of set you up and build you up, and then you can kind of use that to then transfer to your website also. So yeah, Etsy is a really good platform to start with for beginners, and it allows newbies to set out their product easily. But obviously with a website you can have your own layout, your own colour, your own branding, basically make it your own. However, it is a little bit more hands-on and challenging than Etsy, which kind of has a template and just sets it out for you and you just kind of fill it in. So there's 2 really good options there. Shopify I don't personally use, so I can't really comment. I don't have a lot of information about that myself, but I am currently in the works of doing a website myself, so I will hopefully have that up and running soon, but I've just been mega busy. So feel free, if anyone has got a website, to drop their comments below. Number 6, Etsy ads. So when you start out your Etsy or when you start your small business, obviously you're basically a nobody. You're going to have no sales, no reviews. And like anyone, as a customer, when I see kind of a new start-up business, as a customer for anything, you kind of go on reviews, right? So anything when you're shopping, you kind of look at the reviews and think, oh, is it worth going? So when you're kind of starting out and you don't have any of those reviews to kind of back you up, it is quite difficult to then get that traffic through. So it's really good to utilize Etsy ads, because these will kind of push to get your shop and name out there. And this will help you to be seen and draw people into your shop. They're super simple. This is not a sponsorship of Etsy, by the way. I realised I'm literally raving on Etsy, but it's just what I personally use. So I'm just giving my tips out there. Feel free to kind of disregard them completely, but it's still good to kind of have the information out there. So the Etsy ads are really simple to kind of tailor to your own budget. They go from like $1 to $25 a day. So I mean, if you wanted to be crazy, you could literally do $25 a day if anyone has that sort of money. But yeah, so there's definitely a range for all sorts of different budgets. I personally, when I was starting out, didn't know how my shop was going to start out, so I just kind of stayed with $1 a day for the Etsy ads. But as you obviously get more comfortable and get more consistent sales, you're going to get that constant flow of traffic and hopefully that constant revenue. So you can definitely change or increase your ad budgeting if you would like, or if you feel you need to. But ultimately, even $1 a day is going to get your products out there more than if you haven't got the ads, and it will start making people see your products more and hopefully draw them in. And obviously, the more customers we get drawn in, potentially more sales will come. Number 7, run sales or use promo codes for your shop or website. So it's really good to offer incentives for people to purchase your items. I feel like it's just human nature to want a really good deal. Like, again, as a customer for other things, if I see a sale on any sort of food item or clothing, I will instantly think, oh, this is a steal. So even if it's still really expensive, I feel like, oh, I'm saving money. So people, it's a really good way to entice people to your shop. And not only just when you're starting out, when you're pretty much established, it's still a really good way to bring people to your shop and get them spending. And although this might sound really scary at first, because obviously when you're starting out, you want to try and make as much money as possible, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm losing money here. But actually, people are more likely to kind of spend money when they feel like they are getting a deal. And like I said with the previous one about reviews, the more sales you get, the better your reputation is going to be, and you're going to start getting those reviews, and that's going to be really good for your branding and your shop's reputation and the constant flow of revenue. So obviously you don't have to do it all the time. Well, it's just a really good way of kind of enticing people every so often to kind of visit your shop. It then increases your traffic. They may go there and see things they didn't know you had in your shop. So it's just a really good way of letting people be aware of what you do kind of have on offer. Obviously, I'm not telling you to go absolutely crazy and do like a 50-70% sale off and you're making absolutely no profit from it. But it's still also good to just do a few 10 to 20% discounts every now and then, like I say, just to entice people and get them visiting your shop. Number 8, prioritize your reviews. So I know this sounds like a bit of a weird one, because reviews are kind of out of your hands in a sense, because obviously it's on the kind of customers to leave that review. And building this good reputation is the key to a successful business, especially when you're starting out. People want to be able to trust you when they're spending their money. So like anyone would think, is you want to try and get as many 5-star reviews as you can possibly get and build your brand as that trustworthy, safe, reliable store. Etsy, again, I know I keep going on about them, but they're also really good because they kind of build these benchmarks, all sorts of different things like speedy replies, like speedy delivery and things like that. And if you can reach each of these, then you get a little bestseller badge. And this is then placed just under your like store name, but it signifies to people that you are reliable, that you have been hitting these benchmarks. And again, it just makes people feel a lot more confident in your shop, that it's a lot more legitimate, and that they are going to get a really good customer service from your store. So like I said, utilize those Etsy ads to bring people into your shop, and this will then lead to potential sales, which will then lead to the reviews. and this will slowly lead to your reputation building and get those credible 5-star reviews, which again will lead to possible repeat buyers as well as new customers, and more people will be comfortable from buying from you. Number 9, probably with any sort of business, you want to try and stay on top of your finances and your expenses. So this is really important, especially when you're starting out, because you really need to try and keep on top of your expenses as much as you can and as early as you can too. And this is really important to avoid getting too far along and giving yourself a huge amount of workload to kind of have to go back and track every single expense you've done the last couple of months. So I'd highly recommend either doing it as you go or kind of dedicating a day, a week or a month to kind of go back and track your expenses, because you're going to have a huge workload if you leave it several months and then you need to, like I say, go back and find every single expense of crochet supply, yarn that you've bought. So yeah, definitely dedicate time to do that. Create an Excel spreadsheet or Google Docs or whatever other platforms there are, and just try and document as you go, or keep receipts and fill in when you can. But yeah, it's definitely a really vital one to kind of keep your workload down and just overall stress and hassle. Last but not least, and probably the most important, enjoy it. Creating a small business, whether full-time or part-time, should be based on something you are super passionate about and that you're ultimately going to enjoy. Not only mentally, to make sure you're not going to burn out, and it's really important to try your best at keeping your work-life balance. I know I am not the best representative here, and I'm sure most of you will probably be better than me at that aspect, as I'm still personally mastering that, and it can get overwhelming at times. But overall, if you're enjoying it, like I know I do, I don't see it as work. I see it as I enjoy doing it, creating, I enjoy making all these things. And even though I should kind of have a bit more work-life balance, I do overall have a lot of passion and drive. But it is, at the end of the day, really important to kind of establish those boundaries and avoid getting that burnout, but still have your free time to relax or chill or have a personal life, and ultimately not lose the passion for your hobby, because like you say, usually small businesses are built on a hobby that you've picked up and you're passionate about doing, and that's the way it should stay. Like, it's a passion that you want to do, it's a hobby that you enjoy doing, and if you can turn that into something you gain money from and do full time, then that's a complete bonus. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed watching, and I hope any newbie small business owners can kind of take this as a sign to go for it and believe in yourself. Please do comment below how you found it, and if you have any future video ideas you'd like to see from me. Catch you guys later.